Horoscope channel, where we are going to do another power review, the season finale, episode 10. Let's talk about it. So in the first opening scene, we are seeing Monet enjoying yacht life with Dante. And Dante has clearly been spoiling her over the past few days or a week or so since the last episode. But have they even physically been together? I don't think so. For some reason, I believe Monet is not too sold on being with Dante anymore. And it seems like it does come out in episode 10 as to why. Now, Dante and Monet, they are going back and forth having a conversation. And Dante says something that is interesting when he tells Monet he already lost her once because of the game, and he wasn't willing to do that again. So that's the reason why he turned himself into Mecca. So it just makes me think, him being an informant, is that one of the main factors? Because he would get paid well to take down some of the biggest dope dealers in the game. And he is essentially undercover. So it could have been, not saying it's all about Monet, but it does seem pretty clear that Monet has Dante's nose very wide open. I think Monet knows that, but however, she still has to watch her back with Dante, because if he created such an elaborate lifestyle and was able to lie to her in her face, then what else is he truly capable of? So the plan comes out that Cain should be the one to kill Lorenzo, and this will give Dante and Monet an alibi as far as being at his penthouse. And this is what Dante suggests to Monet. And that's going to be a very hard position to put Cain in, because regardless to whatever is going on, we all know that Cain loves his family, like I have said before, and it shows through his actions, or him just coming out of nowhere, defending them, having their back. Even though he can be grimy, it's still all love when it comes to his family. So now it goes over to Tariq in his dorm room, where him and Effie have been laying up for a little while. And he is calling Lauren to see if she is okay. Now, Effie gets up and she does ask, who's that? Probably very well knowing that Tariq is trying to check to see if Lauren is alright. And Tariq just goes over and he just gives her a kiss and tells her that she's bugging. So in the midst of them talking about Lauren, Tariq said he doesn't know what's coming for him next, and he is right. Every time he turns around, Ghost Jr. is always in some mess, and he has very few people to trust. But he tells Effie if he goes inside, would she find yes for him, because her adoption is about to be final. And he also lets her in on how his father has it set up so Yaz won't be able, or nobody won't be able to contact Yaz, and her records are sealed. And Effie, you can tell that she takes this to heart. Like, you trust me to do that? And then Tariq tells her, besides my mom, you're the only one that I can trust. So that is a big deal as far as the game that they are playing. So the past 2-3 episodes, Effie has really been showing that she definitely has Tariq's back. So he tells her all of this just before he goes to court. And on his way, he's walking in with Saxe and Davis. And Davis lets Tariq know that Tate, although he did close or put out one fire, he may have opened up another door, which is Trace. Now, if you remember from the last episode, the DA was at Braden's house, and Trace was sitting up there telling her everything. So now Trace is going to be a witness, and Davis is asking Tariq, well, what does he know? So Tariq goes and tells Davis and Saxe what happened as far as Trey stole some pills from Lorenzo. He took it out of Braden's room. And then to teach them a lesson, he put Braden and Trace on the street to sell them. And Saxe looks over and asks Tariq, well, where were you? And Tariq tells him, well, you should know. I was with your niece who you had tailing me. So Davis sits up here and said, okay, well, great. We can put her on the stand. And Saxe is against it because his sister is definitely not speaking to him or is mad at him from the first season when he got his little niece to try to get some information on Tariq to set him up. As this is going on, Dante is having another father and son moment with Zeke when he's at his warehouse spot where his jet is and his exotic cars are. And he's walking Zeke around, and Zeke is just looking a little fascinated with all of the cars and everything. And they talk about Monet. And Dante tries to assure Zeke, regardless if there is lies, regardless if there is betrayal, Monet would do anything for you. Believe that. So Zeke he's still on the fence because truthfully, he knows that Monet has something to do with Carrie's murder. He just wants it to be admitted. Like, he just wants her to just tell him the truth and stop lying to him. So he ultimately gets over it for the moment, and he accepts one of the cars that Dante gives him. Now, I just got to say that the Zeke character, he is such a mess. I mean, emotionally. It seems like any little thing would set him over the edge. And it seems also to me that all season long, he has just been living in this bubble. Rightfully so, because he was lied to since birth. But he's been just living in this bubble where if he hears any kind of bad news, he's like losing it, and not in a good way. So he really needs to learn how to channel his emotions. But Dante does ask him, is he coming with him and his mom? Because, you know, when I see them together, I keep thinking of the song, We Are a Family. So Zeke, he's still on the fence on whether or not he's gonna come with Monet and Dante. So now the scene goes over to Monet talking with Kane, and Monet lets Kane in on the plan. And I almost feel a little bad for Kane because he really doesn't want to take his father out. But she tells him, look, it's him or me. He shot at me. You gonna stand for that? He disrespected you. He didn't make you his number 2. He's not leaving the business in your control. Like, how much more are you going to take? So she puts this in Kane's head. And if Kane does this, there is no turning back. When Monet tries to give Kane the piece, he's very hesitant to take it. And then she just tells him, where is this nigga Tariq when I need him? And Kane was sitting up there being jealous. I don't need Tariq to do anything. And she lets him know that Tariq killed his own dad. So that's literally the ammunition or the pep talk that Kane needs in order to do it. It's like, Tariq did something that I can't do? Oh, no, let me go ahead and show you that I can do whatever Tariq can do. So back over to the courthouse. In the trial, Trace is unable to take the stand, and who takes it in his place? Braden. The DA is talking to Braden and asking him questions, and Braden literally admits that he is the one who was selling drugs, not Tariq. He is the one that is over course correct, and he has evidence backing it up when he signed to be the president when they were trying to make it into a legal organization. So this blows up the case between the DA just constantly trying to frame Tariq or get Tariq caught up, and he is dismissed of all charges. So he is no longer going down for Jabari Reynolds or Ramirez's murder at this time. But how is this going to blow back on Brayden? Because he essentially admitted to all of this. So are any type of charges going to be brought up to him, or are they just going to basically leave it at the selling of drugs? Because they don't have proof that Brayden did it, and I'm pretty sure he may have some type of alibi during Ramirez and during Jabari Reynolds' murder. So just putting it out there and wondering what's going to happen to Brayden. The jury gets to go home. The ankle monitor comes off of Tariq's ankle. And Brayden's dad is telling him, I can't believe that you did that. Plus, when Saxe tells the judge when Davis, Saxe, and the DA have to go to the bench, she wanted to dismiss with prejudice so she could be able to try him again. But Saxe reminds the judge that double jeopardy is attached, so that means that she can't try him again, at least not for this case. And the DA looks over at Saxe because, of course, they have been pillow talking for a while. So she's mad at him for even saying that. But the judge probably would have told her that anyway. So, Saxe, even though he really wants to get Ghost Jr., he still has to appear to try to do his job just a little bit. At least I would think. So now we are in Davis's office, and him and Tariq are talking about what just happened. And Tariq tells Davis that he needs his sister's adoption to be stopped. And once that happens, he is out of the game for good. Now, Davis tells Tariq, hey, you've been hustling since I met you, so I don't think you're out. You need to go ahead and just focus on doing that. Wait till you get your money and then get your sister. And Tariq, he is not hearing that. He feels that Tasha would want him to raise his sister if she can't, and that is understandable. Now, Davis and Tariq talk about the fact that Brayden is the one that got his charges dropped. And Davis says something that my father always say, you out your rabbit ass mind. Because Kane, although he knew that he dropped that badge, Ramirez's badge, in Tariq's dorm room, he still would have to admit that Tariq wants to let that be known to the ethics committee that Kane and Tariq had something to do with that murder. So in order for Davis to get hemmed up and Tariq to possibly even entertain the fact of getting some of his money back, he would have to tell on himself, and that's not happening. Plus, this just lets me know when you see Davis going to the jail and his background story, it really becomes obvious now what's happening. Clearly, Davis had committed a crime and his brother took the fall for him. And now he is getting this money up in order to really help his brother. So that definitely comes out in this episode. Now, not necessarily like that, but the evidence is already pointing to that. That's why Davis is asking Saxe to check in on this particular case so Saxe can be the one that gets his brother off. But we all know how Saxe is. Saxe can't help but to be a detective. He can't help but to poke his nose into what he really is passionate about. So he's gonna eventually turn. The breaking point for him to finally go back to his roots, talking about Saxe, is when he and the DA, they're at a bar. Now, Saxe was already there and the DA shows up, and this is where she tells him that Lauren is dead. Now, it looks like it is a car accident, and they said she had a bag full of cash, so it appears that she is running. But the DA as well as Saxe definitely know that either Kane or Tariq had something to do with it. So this is where Saxe, like I said, is going to turn on his client. He's going to turn on Davis, and he's going to, in fact, help the DA to take them down. So this is where it gets tricky because him and the DA, they're together, but I don't know if they're in love. He seems to have strong feelings for her, And he also tells her how he planted evidence on Ghost and tried to, in fact, kill him. So I would think that the information about him trying to kill Ghost is going to come back on to Sax. And we are just going to have to see next season 3, how that is going to play out against him. So let's get to the action. Monet had already text messaged Tariq while he was in Davis's office, and she said she needs to see him. So him and Monet, they meet up, and Monet just lets him know that she needs Tariq's help as far as Cain killing Mecca. Tariq lets Monet know that Mecca is Dante, and he's holding her bag with all of the information, and he tells her, you know, Dante's an informant, right? And now she's even more mad because she obviously found out that Mecca is the one who shot at her and Zeke to make it look like it was Lorenzo so she could be on board with him. So when I said the last time when Monet was talking with Cain and Dante at his penthouse, is this a part of Monet's plan? And I meant, like, is she really going to go with Dante, or does she have a plan in mind? So she must have known then that Mecca is the one who shot at her and Zeke in order to get her to side with him. So now they have a plan set in motion. After Monet and Tariq speak, Monet goes over to their bar where Lorenzo is talking with his goons. One of them so happened to be one of Mecca's soldiers. And she lets him in on what's happening and basically tells him she's going to be the one to put the bullet in Mecca's head because it's just smart. Now Lorenzo's getting macho about it. He's like, I'm here to protect the family. I should be the one to do it. And she's telling him, like, it's not even about that. It's the fact that if he does it, that puts Drew, Diana, and Cain all in the line of fire. And at least Monet and Lorenzo can agree that they do try their best to put the children first, regardless to whatever they got going on. So they appreciate each other being a parent. Call it what you will, they do appreciate that. So now Lorenzo is talking with Drew and Diana, and he's telling them what's going on. And then everybody is going to be in play in order to take Mecca out. So back at the dorm room, Tariq and Brayden are talking about what happened, and Tariq tells him, look, I can never repay you for what you did. Brayden is obviously pulled out of school for some time, so I don't know how he and Tariq are going to keep up with the business. Tariq tells him that he's out, but they always have that back and forth of Tariq saying that he's out. And it also comes out that Diana is the one who swiped the code and got the rest of the drugs, and he's not even tripping on that. But while they're talking, guess who comes in? Cain. He comes into their room, and Cain said, I heard you had kept it 10 toes down, talking to Brayden. And then he asked Brayden, so everything's good, right? And Brayden, yeah, everything is fine. That's what he tells him. And then he leaves. So now it's just Cain and Tariq. And Cain is telling Tariq, I know what I'm doing. Because Tariq was like, Monet sent you, I know what's going on. I'm going to help you get rid of your father. And he lets him in on how it's going to go. As far as once you do this, you can never come back from this. And in that moment, it's like Tariq is the one that's schooling Cain, because Cain is going to reach another level he hasn't gone to before. So it's different, and he's putting up this big front like he can do it and he's that guy. And then he turns around after Tariq is like doing something on his desk. He kind of turns around, and it's like you can tell in that moment the expression is on his face, like, damn, I have to kill my father. And you know, it's kind of a sad, somber moment to me, because it's like it's really sinking in, or he's really realizing that this is what he has to do. or so it appears. So to fast forward just a little bit, Zeke goes to the police station and he talks to Whitman about Carrie, and Councilman Tate pops up on Steve, who is the head of the Democratic Party, and Sweeney. And they literally just put that proposal out. Hey, here's the pictures of blackface. We're going to need you to go ahead and step down for a minute, and then you can come back and run for another office. And I literally think this is how politics work to some degree. If they have some dirt on you, you're going to have to resign, but then you'll go somewhere else and get into a new position where you probably could come out even better. So Sweeney shows his disdain for Tate by calling him the N-word. And now we're back at Mega Spot, where him and Kane are having a conversation about Kane delivering Lorenzo's head. And Kane is still going back and forth. You want me to kill my father in order to establish trust? Because I believe that that Dante, he wants to be obviously a surrogate father to Kane, Diana, and Drew. That's why he had passports for them. That's why he had funds for them. And I'm wondering, when everything goes down, what's going to happen to all of that he set aside? Are they going to get that money? I mean, he did have it set up for them. So we're really going to have to see. So Tariq is walking in the park and he is talking with Dante, who gives him a call. And Tariq tried to shake Dante down for that $2 million. And Dante tells him, look, I got it for you. And then they get off the phone. But then Tariq is meeting up with the attorney that his dad hired. And he tells him that Yaz's adoption has been stopped and the custody rights have reverted back to him. But then he said, Saxe has something to tell you. And that's when Saxe comes up from behind. And he tells Tariq that Lauren is dead because of an accident. And he can look at Tariq and tell that Tariq didn't know nothing about it. But then he asks, like, does Kane Tejada know? Who else knew that she was getting out of town other than you? So then the scene goes over from the park. It's nighttime now. And it goes to Davis's office. Davis looks like he is setting up for some big conference meeting. And he's talking with Saxe, who comes in, and he says he needs to tell him something. Then he tells him that Lauren is dead and the blood is on their hands. And he tries to make Davis feel guilty about it. But Davis tells him, look, you can't make me feel guilty about it, especially when you planted evidence and you moving how you are. You can't make me feel guilty. And that's when he talks to him about his brother's case, but Saxe still doesn't know that that's his brother. And it goes on from there. So Tariq is in his dorm room with Effie, and he's talking out his feelings about how everybody around him ends up dead. And Effie sits up here and she tells him that you got me, you got Braden. We F with you for real. And he knows that. And I just have to say, on a side note, okay, who can't use friends like Braden and Effie? Now, I know that they have their grimy parts about them, but at least if you're gonna fool with people like that, for the most part, you know what you're getting, and they can really have your back. I mean, time and time again, they have proven to Tariq that when they put the mess aside, and Tariq is honest with them, because he wasn't in the beginning, that they will have his back for the most part. So it was really heartwarming scene yet again. And then it goes over to what I think is the best scene. Tasha, being somebody else in witness protection, is at her home. And she gets a knock at the door. She doesn't know what to expect. She doesn't know whether to grab her gun or to leave. But then she ends up going to the door, and on the other end is Tamika. So when she sees it's Tamika, she talks with her, and guess who comes out of the SUV? Yaz. So they have put Yaz in witness protection to be with Tasha. And Tariq is the one who is sitting in the SUV, but he can't get out, and he set everything up. because he said maybe it's best, he told Effie, maybe it's best that Yaz is not around him. And that's true, because you just would never know. So it does seem like this is the best thing that he could have done, which was try to get her into witness protection. And I'm so glad Tamika, Saxe, they were on board to do that. It wasn't about him, but they understand who he is. It was always about Yaz. So in the SUV, Saxe and Tariq are talking, and Tariq asks Saxe, does he know who Dante Spears is? And, Tariq tells him he just found out that he had set up Lobos. And he said, yeah, he set up a few people. And tell you the truth, if it wasn't for him, we wouldn't have known what was going on with your dad. So they are already planting another motive to get Tariq hemmed up in another crime, because Saxe willingly told Tariq this information. So now let's get to the plan. Tariq is in another location and he's meeting up with Drew. The plan is they're going to play 3-card Monty with Dante's bag. So they know that Mecca is going to be following them, and they're going to have to follow all of the bags. But Diana is going to be the one who has the real bag. Now Tariq tells Drew that we have to make sure Diana doesn't look into the real bag, because this will give her plausible deniability. But we all know that Diana is way too nosy not to do that, and so she ends up looking into that bag and it becomes a big mistake. So now Drew goes over to meet up with Lorenzo and Diana, and he begs Diana to please don't look in the bag. He gives Lorenzo one of the decoy bags and then he takes off from them. Lorenzo, he goes on his way. Now meanwhile, Zeke is talking with Whitman, and Zeke's suspicions about Monet killing Carrie are confirmed. She is caught on some type of traffic cam driving nearby Carrie's home or on Carrie's block, and he could have very well turned Monet in right then, but he didn't. He covered for Monet, and he basically tells Whitman, look, she was doing that because of me. She was doing that to meet up with me. So that gets Monet off the hook for Carrie's murder for now. So after Zeke is back in his luxury car crying about Carrie for whatever reason, because he's so emotional, now it goes over to Tariq and Kane getting ready to go to Lorenzo's spot so Kane can take him out. Now everything is in place. Tariq and Kane, they sneak up and they're watching what's going on with Lorenzo. It looks like Kane is going to take the shot on Lorenzo, but then just before he was about to really think about pulling that trigger, Tariq tells him the real plan, and he says, we are here to take everybody else out, not your dad. So everybody now is putting in that body work. They're shooting up the warehouse. Kane gets a piece, Lorenzo gets a piece, Tariq gets a piece, and then when it's all over, Tariq, Kane, and Lorenzo are the 3 men still standing. And Tariq tells Lorenzo, you stole my drugs. Kane still doesn't know all of the details of what's going on. And Lorenzo tells him, you had that shit coming. So then, now, Kane has to go and save Drew or help Drew out. And he tells Tariq, you coming? Tariq tells him, nah, I gotta go get the real bag from Diana. And he's like, she's in on this too. So Mecca is waiting on word back from his soldiers whether or not the job is done. So since he didn't hear anything, he calls it in to let whoever is over him know his position may have been compromised. Now during this time, he also comes into the room where Monet is, and she has her gun, of course, in her purse. And Mecca tells her, look, call Tariq and tell him to meet us here. And also, have you heard from Kane what's going on? She tells him he's probably chopping up the body. I haven't heard anything yet. So he's getting very anxious, and he thinks that everything has gone south, so he's preparing. So this is when it switches back over to Drew walking with Everett in the parking lot. And this is where Everett kind of confronts Drew about, did you steal my ID badge? And Drew says, nah, he didn't do it. So they make up for the moment, but after Everett goes on his way, Mecca's new goons, they come to Drew and they start beating down on him, trying to get that bag. Now this is where Kane comes in and he helps his brother out, and then they both get the jump on the guys and they are able to walk away from the situation. Now fast forwarding back over to Lorenzo, he's at home now and nobody's there but Diana. Now remember when I said Diana, we all know she is going to look in the bag? Well, she did, and she tells her father what she saw, that she saw passports with the kids' names and Zeke and everybody. So now Lorenzo thinks maybe this whole thing was like a double setup, and maybe Monet is really going with him. So he is on high alert. He tries to go over to that warehouse garage where Mecca has his jet, his exotic cars. And he sees an exotic car pull up. He sees a guy getting out. He sees a guy going to the jet. And he doesn't even check things out. He just starts shooting. And he ends up killing Zeke. And I'm like, no, why you killed Zeke? But I think it was time for Zeke to go. Zeke was just too much of a loose cannon in an emotional sense, and it just kind of got on my nerves just a little bit. But I didn't want Zeke to be killed by Lorenzo, because how is Monet going to recover from that? The truth had finally came out. They could literally start anew. I thought Zeke was going to at least get the opportunity to be around Monet. I don't know about Dante, but I thought that they were going to at least get to be in a different way with each other now. And Lorenzo kills him. Back at the penthouse, the moment that Tariq is coming in or about to get off the elevator, he hears gunshots. And I'm sitting up here wondering, like, dang, they don't have no silencers. Like, you're in a penthouse, you don't know who heard what. And maybe the penthouse is so far up that, you know, everybody else can't hear what's going on. But Tariq heard it from the elevator because he jumped a little bit. And when he comes in, he sees that Monet has put a bullet in Dante's head, and that's when he comes in and he helps her wipe the security system. But in their conversation prior to Tariq entering, Dante tells Monet that they are perfect for each other and they should be together, and he's not letting her out of his sight or life at this point. So she just, it had to be done, apparently. Monet tells Tariq that she's going to keep her word, and if you want out of the game, okay, cool, you know, you're free to go. But since Tariq is not getting his 2 mil from Dante now, he pretty much tells her, look, we in the same boat, so I gotta do what I gotta do. Okay, so now we're thinking everything has gone back to drug normal. I mean, Monet went back home. Kane comes down the steps. She asks, are they good? He says, yeah. Then Lorenzo comes in, and she asks him, well, where were you? That's when Diana comes out into the main room, and she tells them to come check this out. Her and Drew are sitting there and they're watching the news, and Dante's murder has been reported, and that's when Lorenzo figures it out that he shot Zeke. So, it's going to be real devastating to know what's going to happen when Monet finds out that Lorenzo shot Zeke. So in the penthouse, who of all people are helping to investigate Dante? Blanca. So now she is reappearing, and she saw a picture of a camera that caught Tariq entering into the building. So it turns out that Dante was Blanca Rodriguez's CI. So he was calling her when he made that phone call stating that his position has been compromised. So she's definitely going to go after Tariq. So just to finally wrap up, Councilman Tate is trying to throw his brother a bone by telling him he wants him to work as his head of security once he takes over Sweeney's spot. Tariq and Effie, they are cuddling and kissing, and she's going back to her school. And now we come back to the Tejada household, where Whitman ends up calling Monet, or calling the house, and telling Monet that Zeke has been killed. And lastly, when they show Tasha and Yaz about to have their dinner, Yaz gives Tasha a letter from Tariq, and Tariq just lets her know that he is going to do whatever it takes to be back home with Yaz and Tasha, where he belongs. Now, going back to Monet getting the news, she is obviously really hurt by this. You can see it in her face. And I don't think it's going to take her too long to put it together that Lorenzo is the one who took out Zeke. Now, I don't know if she's going to think he tried to do that maliciously, but it could very well look like it. I mean, Zeke was not his son. So not only is the Dante and Monet legacy wiped with Dante being gone, but also with Zeke. Well, that does it for season 2. And overall, I think it was a pretty good season. Looking forward to see what's going to happen next time around. So let me know what you think. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Oh, and thanks for watching. Until next time. Bye.